Let me tell you something that will make most people uncomfortable. You don't need a lot of money to live well. But nobody believes that anymore. They've been taught, like trained dogs, to think that comfort comes from how much money you make, not from how smart you are. That's the first and most dangerous wrong idea in modern life. You simply cannot make enough money to fix bad choices. No matter how much you make, if you can't control yourself, you'll still end up broke. The only difference is you'll have nicer furniture while you're worried and can't sleep. I've watched this happen for 70 years. Smart people with fancy jobs and big salaries still living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they're unlucky, but because they refuse to live in a smart way. They can't say no to buying things. And modern society has done an amazing job making the pressure to buy things incredibly strong. Advertisers have turned saving money into something embarrassing, holding back into suffering, and being careful into being poor. Well, let me tell you something they won't. Living below your means isn't suffering, it's freedom. When your bills are low, you control your time. When what you owe is small, you can walk away from dumb situations. That's real freedom. But most people don't want freedom. They want approval. They'd rather look rich than be rich. And they'll trade away decades of peace just to impress people who don't even care about them. I've seen it all my life. The same pattern keeps repeating. People chasing the next raise, the next promotion, the next fancy thing, thinking more money will fix what bad thinking caused. It never does. You can't fix bad habits with a bigger paycheck. You can only make your mistakes bigger. If you can't manage $1,000 wisely, you won't magically manage $10,000 wisely. If you can't save money when you make $50,000 a year, you'll be just as broke when you make $200,000. The only difference is you'll have better clothes and a nicer car to distract you from the math. The math doesn't care about your feelings. The math just grows your decisions, whether they're good or bad. Here's what most people miss. The amount you actually need to live comfortably is far less than you think, because comfort isn't a result of income. It's a result of clarity. You don't have to live in constant debt. You don't have to buy things you don't even remember wanting. You don't need to impress anyone. You just need to stop acting like you're immune to math. Warren and I built Berkshire on simple rules. Spend less than you earn. Invest the rest. Repeat for a long time. That's all wealth ever was. But simple doesn't mean easy, because it requires discipline. And discipline isn't popular. The world sells excitement, not carefulness. You'll never see an advertisement saying, "Buy nothing and stay stable." There's no profit in teaching you to think clearly. That's why you have to train yourself. Value peace over pleasure, clarity over mess, control over convenience. If you want a comfortable life, start by keeping your bills low. Because once your bills go up, your freedom goes down. Every subscription, every loan, every unnecessary bill is another chain around your neck. If you can't sleep well unless your paycheck arrives on Friday, you're not living freely. You're renting peace of mind, and rented peace always runs out. Now, let me talk about what I call the monthly expense treadmill. Modern life is a factory that creates bills. You start small, a streaming subscription here, a car loan there, then a bigger house because you deserve it, then furniture for the house, insurance for the car, gadgets for the lifestyle, until you wake up one day working just to feed the machine you built. It's a quiet trap. You don't even notice it tightening because every addition feels reasonable. But the sum of reasonable things can become destructive. The faster you run on this treadmill, the faster it moves. And the only way to win is to step off. How? By choosing deliberate simplicity, not suffering, just clarity. Start by writing down what you owe each month. List every bill that repeats, every automatic charge you've forgotten about. Then ask one tough question. If I lost my job tomorrow, how long could I survive without panic? Most people can't last a month. That's not living. That's gambling with stability. The wealthy don't think like that. They build what I call a margin of safety. We use this rule in investing. Don't get wiped out. Design your life so you can survive long dry spells. The first way to build that margin isn't making more. It's owing less. Lower bills mean you can last longer. It gives you time, choices, and the ability to say no when life gets stupid. And life gets stupid regularly. I remember when I was young in Omaha, I watched people spend like they were going to live forever. They thought money was endless and time was cheap. Now I watch their older versions bitter, tired, still paying for lives they no longer enjoy. You see, when you tie your happiness to buying things, it expires as fast as your new gadget's battery. But when you tie it to independence, it grows quietly. Keeping bills low does more than save money. It protects your peace of mind. It removes worry from your mornings. You stop waking up worried about interest rates or layoffs or what the market's doing today because you've already built a smaller, smarter ship that can handle any storm. When people ask me how to get rich, I tell them, start by not acting poor. And acting poor doesn't mean earning less. It means needing less. Every unnecessary bill is a tiny surrender of freedom. Every fixed payment is a promise you made to work harder just to stay in the same place. The tragedy is most people call that normal. They think budgeting is punishment. But the truth is, budgeting is self-respect. It's you telling your future self, I'm not going to mess you over. Just tracking what you spend changes how you behave, because once you see the leak, you start fixing the pipe. You can't fix what you refuse to measure. That's why even a simple written list, income minus expenses, is more powerful than most financial software. It forces you to face the numbers, not the excuses. And once you see clearly, you start cutting ruthlessly. Cancel the subscriptions you forgot existed. Refinance or pay down the high-interest debts. Stop upgrading things that still work perfectly well. And for heaven's sake, don't treat sales as savings. A discount on something you don't need is still a waste. The goal isn't to live miserably. It's to build breathing room to make sure one broken appliance or one car repair doesn't collapse your whole plan. Because if one surprise expense can destroy your finances, that's not a surprise. That's a design flaw. Keeping bills low isn't just about money. It's about mental space. When your fixed costs are small, you can take risks, invest boldly, and live calmly. When they're huge, you're trapped. You become a slave to the next paycheck, no matter how big it is. I've met countless professionals who can't afford to quit jobs they hate, not because they don't have income, but because they have too many bills. They bought themselves golden handcuffs, nice, shiny, suffocating. Remember, the goal is freedom, not luxury, and the path to freedom begins with subtraction, not addition. If you can lower your monthly burn rate, you automatically raise your peace of mind. Every dollar you don't owe is a dollar that grows for you. And every bill you avoid paying is another brick in the wall protecting your independence. Now, let's talk about what most people get backwards. They think wealth is about how much you earn. It isn't. It's about how much you keep. You can't make enough money to fix stupidity. I'll say it again because it needs repeating. If you make $1 million and spend $1 million, you're not rich. You're just temporarily stable. That's why the smartest people I know live below their means, not at or above them. When I was young, I saw a strange pattern. The janitor who saved 10 cents out of every dollar retired with peace. The lawyer who spent 11 cents out of every dollar retired with regret. What matters is the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap is your freedom. That's your margin of safety for life. It's what allows you to invest, to think clearly, to walk away from stupidity when you see it coming. If your lifestyle expands every time your income rises, you're just running faster on the same treadmill. People call it upgrading their life. I call it upgrading their worry. The truth is harsh, but it needs saying. You will never have enough if you can't be satisfied with enough. Every dollar you overspend buys a temporary high and a permanent bill. You become addicted to a standard of living that doesn't belong to you. I once said the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. That doesn't just apply to investments, it applies to your behavior. If you're constantly interrupting your savings by chasing the next shiny thing, compounding never gets the chance to do its job. And compounding is the eighth wonder of the world if you give it time. Here's a simple rule I've followed my whole life. If you earn $1,000, live on $500 and invest the rest. Do it long enough and you'll be amazed at what happens, because small extra money compounded for decades beats big paychecks wasted in months every single time. Living below your means doesn't mean living miserably. It means designing your life smartly, owning fewer but better things, keeping your bills light, having more room to think and breathe. I know people who built fortunes just by not acting foolish. They weren't geniuses, they were consistent. They knew that comfort built on debt isn't comfort, it's camouflage. Most folks chase financial freedom like it's a lottery prize. But freedom is just the result of discipline repeated quietly over many years. It's not a prize you win, it's a habit you build. When you live below your means, strange things happen. You stop caring about keeping up. You stop comparing. You stop needing. That's when compounding starts to work for you instead of against you. Every dollar you save is a soldier fighting for your independence. Every impulse purchase is a deserter. And most people keep sending their soldiers to die in the war of showing off. The irony is, once you stop living for appearances, life actually gets better. Less clutter, less debt, more peace. You realize that happiness is not a result of buying things. It's a result of control. You'll hear people say, "You only live once, so spend it." That's idiotic, because if you spend it all, you only live once before going broke. The smarter version is, you only live once, so live with planning. Every decision about money is really a decision about time. Spend recklessly, and you trade future years for present moments. Spend wisely, and you buy back decades of calm. That's the real luxury, time and peace, not toys and brands. Here's a test I give people. If you lost your job today, how many months could you stay home? If the answer is none, then you don't own your lifestyle. It owns you. Living below your means builds what Warren and I call optionality. It lets you take risks, invest boldly, or simply rest without fear. It's how you make sure the game doesn't end before you're done playing. Most people make the mistake of believing that success buys security. It doesn't, only restraint does. The best investors, the happiest retirees, the calmest people I know, all practice restraint as if it were a religion. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't compound what you don't save, and you can't save if you can't control yourself. So before you look for the next stock, or the next raise, or the next scheme, look at your habits. If your expenses rise every time your income does, you're not progressing, you're inflating, and sooner or later, bubbles burst. The smartest move isn't making another dollar. It's mastering the urge to spend the one you already have. If you do that long enough, wealth becomes inevitable, not because you found a shortcut, but because you stopped doing stupid things. Now, here's something most people fail to understand about unexpected money bonuses. Tax refunds, overtime pay, inheritance. That's the moment most people fail the intelligence test. They call it extra money as if it's free. So they spend it like it's free, and in a few weeks it's gone, and they can't even remember what it bought. Let me be clear. How you handle unexpected money tells me everything about your financial maturity. If you waste it, you're impulsive. If you plan it, you're building a future. When you get a little more than usual, don't rush to treat yourself. Pause. Think. Ask a simple question. What will this dollar do for me a year from now? If the answer is nothing, you're about to commit a small financial crime against yourself. You don't have to be a genius to get rich. You just have to stop acting like an idiot when you get lucky. I've watched people turn small windfalls into lifelong leverage. They didn't celebrate with a vacation or a new car. They paid off debt. They built an emergency fund. They bought assets that quietly worked while they slept. Meanwhile, others blew the same money on shiny distractions and then wondered why life never got easier. Luck is wasted on the undisciplined. Every dollar you treat with purpose compounds. Every dollar you spend carelessly disappears and teaches you nothing. That's why I always tell young people, when extra money shows up, act like it won't come again, because often it won't. If you don't assign it a job, it will find trouble, and money loves trouble. Plan before it arrives. That's what responsible people do. They already know, if I get a bonus, 50% goes to investments, 30% to debt, 20% to life. Enjoyment simple, predictable, rational, no emotions involved. You see, emotion is what destroys financial progress. People get a taste of success and instantly want to advertise it. They forget that quiet money compounds. Loud money disappears. You don't need to live like a monk, but you do need to live like a strategist. Because money without a plan will always flow towards stupidity. When you plan where every extra dollar goes, you remove randomness from your life. And randomness is what ruins most people. The difference between those who get rich and those who stay stuck isn't opportunity. It's discipline with what looks small today. That small bonus you invested might pay your mortgage 20 years from now. That tax refund you used to pay off debt might save you decades of interest. That extra paycheck you put in an index fund instead of a vacation might give you freedom when everyone else is still working. People underestimate how fast discipline compounds. They think it's just a few hundred. But a few hundred invested wisely and repeatedly turns into independence faster than you think. The world doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most consistent. Consistency looks boring, but it wins. Here's how I think about it. Every dollar you earn has a choice. It can work for you or against you. If you spend it, it's gone. If you invest it, it recruits more dollars to your army. Over time, that small army becomes an empire. The tragedy is that most people never give their dollars a chance to work. They fire them the moment they arrive. It's not the market that keeps people poor. It's the absence of a plan. They don't lose money because they're unlucky. They lose it because they behave predictably badly. You don't need to be perfect, just intentional. If you get a bonus, have a plan. If you get a refund, have a plan. If you get a windfall, have a plan. Because the moment you start planning, you stop gambling. And wealth has never been built on gambling, only on patience and reason. Let me address something that makes people uncomfortable: shopping. It has become the modern religion. Temples everywhere open 7 days a week, and every sermon says the same thing: you deserve it. Well, the graveyards are full of people who deserved it. I'm not against comfort. I'm against stupidity. And most spending today is just stupidity dressed up as self-care. You walk into a store for one thing and leave with 5. You open an app just to browse, and somehow you bought another gadget you'll forget in a week. That's not bad luck. That's engineered behavior. Corporations spend billions studying how to make you click buy now. They know your impulses better than you do. And every impulsive purchase is a little victory for them and a little defeat for you. That's why I have a simple rule that saved me millions over my lifetime. Never buy anything the same day you want it. Wait 24 hours. If you still want it tomorrow, maybe it's worth it. But you'll be surprised how often desire evaporates faster than reason returns. The 24-hour rule sounds trivial, but it's a form of discipline, and discipline is wealth's bodyguard. When you delay gratification, you take power back from the world trying to sell you comfort at compound interest. Because make no mistake, debt is comfort's hangover. Most entertainment works the same way. It's marketed as reward. You've worked hard, so now you deserve to escape. But escape costs money, and escape repeated often enough becomes dependency. I've seen people spend half their income on fun concerts, dinners, events, weekends that vanish faster than the receipts fade. They confuse stimulation with satisfaction. You can enjoy yourself without bankrupting yourself. You just have to ask, is this pleasure or is this compensation? Most people don't want joy. They want distraction from a life they don't control. When you fix the foundation, when you're not drowning in bills, when you're investing wisely, you don't need as much entertainment. Your life itself becomes peaceful enough that you're not desperate for escape. There's nothing wrong with enjoying life, but enjoyment without boundaries becomes erosion. So set limits. If you love dining out, plan it once a week, guilt-free, fully enjoyed, but not every night out of boredom or habit. The trick isn't to remove pleasure, it's to give it context. Pleasure should be spice, not the main dish. And remember, not all entertainment is created equal. Some feeds you, some empties you. A good book costs $10 and can change your perspective for decades. A random night out can cost $200 and leave you with nothing but a headache. If you must spend on the things that compound in value: education, health, relationships. The returns on those are exponential. Everything else loses value the moment you touch it. Impulse spending is emotional investing with guaranteed losses. That's why marketers always target your feelings, never your logic, because logic doesn't buy, emotion does. But the older you get, the clearer it becomes. Satisfaction doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from control, from being able to look at something you could buy and saying, no, I'd rather keep my freedom. Every time you resist an impulse, your financial muscles grow stronger. Every time you give in, you feed the weakness that keeps you poor. The real luxury isn't in what you own, it's in what you can walk away from. A person who can say no lives better than the one who says yes to everything. That's why restraint is underrated. It doesn't trend, but it's the foundation under every lasting fortune. Most people chase dopamine, not dividends. They get the thrill of spending, then the dread of bills. It's a cycle of momentary joy and long-term regret. The rational man breaks that cycle by questioning every purchase, every craving, every illusion. Ask yourself, do I want this? Or was I told to want this? Is this purchase adding meaning or just removing boredom? The honest answers will save you a fortune. If you practice this long enough, you'll notice something strange. You start enjoying what you already have. You realize you didn't need more. You just needed perspective. Now, let's talk about something nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to practice. Research before purchase. People spend weeks researching a vacation, but 5 minutes buying a car. They'll compare Netflix shows for an hour, but won't spend 10 minutes reading a product review before dropping thousands of dollars. That's not poverty. That's carelessness. And carelessness is expensive. I've seen this pattern my whole life. People think they're saving time, but what they're really doing is trading intelligence for convenience. And convenience, when it comes to money, is a very costly luxury. Let me tell you something simple that Warren and I have practiced our entire careers. Every purchase is an investment decision. You're trading capital for usefulness. And if you don't understand the value, you're gambling. It's no different from buying stocks. When you buy a company, you study its fundamentals, profits, debts, durability. When you buy a car, a washing machine, or even a laptop, the logic should be the same. But most people don't do that. They just pick what's shiny and hope for the best. Hope in finance or in shopping is a terrible strategy. When you fail to research, you pay for ignorance twice, once with money and again with regret, because ignorance always compounds faster than interest. Here's the thing, products aren't equal. 2 washing machines might look identical, but one lasts 10 years and the other breaks in 3. Buy the cheap one twice and congratulations, you've paid more for less. That's not saving money. That's prepaying for stupidity. Research turns spending into strategy. It converts impulse into intelligence. It forces you to slow down long enough to ask, what am I really buying? A lot of people hate that question. They don't want to think, they want to consume. But thinking is what protects you from traps designed for the impulsive. And in case you haven't noticed, the world is full of traps. They call them limited time offers. Act now, only 2 left in stock, all designed to disable your brain, because your brain, if you use it, ruins their business model. If you want to live smartly, make thinking a reflex. Do your homework before you hand over your wallet. Every hour of research you invest saves hours of frustration later. Warren and I built our fortune by doing something most people are too lazy to do. We read a lot. We study, compare, analyze, question. That habit applies to everything, not just stocks. Buying a home, understand property taxes, maintenance costs, resale value. Buying a car, learn the repair record, fuel efficiency, depreciation curve. Buying a new gadget, check the lifespan, replacement cost, compatibility. If you don't understand it, don't buy it. That's a simple rule, but most ignore it and pay dearly. People love saying time is money, but they forget that ignorance costs more than patience ever will. A few hours of research might save you thousands. That's a trade even a fool should take. But most don't, because the modern world rewards speed over sense. They want it now. They click before they think. Then they wonder why they're broke and unhappy. You don't need to be paranoid, just rational. Compare, ask questions. Look for durability, not decoration. A good purchase should make your life easier, not your wallet lighter. The rich don't buy cheap, they buy smart. They pay for value, not for trends. That's why their things last longer, because their thinking does. When you treat every dollar as an investment, your brain starts working differently. You stop saying, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Is this worth it?" That single question will save you more money than any discount ever could. The irony is, research doesn't just save money. It builds character. It trains patience, discipline, skepticism, the same traits that build wealth. You can't be reckless with little money and expect to be wise with large sums. Habits compound just like capital. So before you buy anything, big or small, do the boring work. Learn, compare, verify. Don't let marketing think for you. Because if someone else is doing your thinking, they're also doing your spending. The market preys on laziness. Your best defense is diligence. A person who reads the fine print will always beat the one who clicks, except without looking. It's not luck, it's literacy. Now, here's something that separates the wealthy from the perpetually broke: maintenance. Most people are great at buying things. They're terrible at keeping them alive. They'll spend months picking the right car, then skip the oil changes. They'll brag about owning a house, but ignore the roof until it leaks. They'll invest in their health, then eat like they're trying to die early. That's not bad luck, that's bad maintenance. And bad maintenance is one of the most expensive habits in the world. You see, most people think wealth is about accumulation, but real wealth is about preservation. What's the point of earning if you can't keep what you already have from falling apart? In business, we call it capital preservation. In life, it's called common sense. A well-maintained machine lasts decades. A neglected one dies early and takes your wallet with it. It's the same with your body, your home, your relationships, and your mind. Everything falls apart if you don't give it attention. Falling apart is nature's favorite hobby. Let me put it this way: preventive care is cheaper than repair in every area of life. People ignore their cars until they break, their roofs until they leak, their teeth until they ache, their finances until they collapse. Then they panic and call it an emergency. No, it's not an emergency. It's carelessness coming due. I learned early on that small maintenance costs compound positively. A $50 oil change prevents a $5,000 engine failure. A $200 checkup prevents a $20,000 hospital bill. A single conversation can prevent a friendship from rotting. And yet, people skip all three because they're busy. Busy is the favorite excuse of the incompetent. They're too busy to maintain what matters, then somehow find endless time to fix what they could have easily prevented. I've seen companies run by brilliant executives collapse because they stopped checking the fundamentals. And I've seen individuals go broke for the same reason. The principle doesn't change. Neglect compounds faster than interest. That's why I always tell people, your job isn't to constantly chase new things. It's to make sure the old ones keep working. In investing, we maintain discipline. In life, we maintain systems. It's the same muscle. You don't get rich by chasing every shiny opportunity. You get rich by keeping what's already working in top shape. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous, but it's profitable, because maintenance of any kind is simply care translated into time. And the market always rewards care. Let's take your home. Most people treat it like a museum. They admire it, but don't manage it. A leaky faucet turns into mold. Mold turns into renovation. Renovation turns into debt. Had they just spent an afternoon fixing the faucet, they'd still have their savings and their sanity. Or take your body. It's the only machine you'll ever own that can't be replaced. But people treat it worse than their cars. They refuel with junk, skip maintenance, and act surprised when it fails. They say, health is wealth. But they forget that wealth without health is a museum exhibit nice to look at, useless to live with. Even your mind needs maintenance. Read, reflect, relearn. Otherwise, it rusts. And rusted thinking costs more than any broken appliance ever could. And don't forget your reputation. That's another asset that requires regular care. One bad decision can destroy decades of credibility. Reputation, like machinery, must be oiled by consistency and protected from corrosion by stupidity. Maintenance in every sense is an act of humility. It's admitting that things decay and that you're not above that law. Only fools believe success makes them invincible. Wise people know it only gives them more to protect. When you maintain something, you're saying, I respect the cost of replacement more than the inconvenience of prevention. That's rational. That's Munger thinking. And here's the hidden benefit. Maintenance builds discipline. The same mindset that changes your car's oil on time will pay your taxes early, rebalance your portfolio, and check your assumptions before they ruin you. If you're sloppy in one area, you'll be sloppy in all of them. Habits don't compartmentalize. They replicate. So, treat maintenance as a philosophy, not a chore, because maintaining what you have is the only way to deserve more. Finally, let me address the heart of rational living, prioritization. If you try to buy everything, you'll eventually own nothing that matters. Money is limited, attention is limited, and the biggest mistake people make is pretending both are unlimited. That's why prioritization isn't just smart, it's survival. You can't have it all, but you can have what's important. The problem is most people never stop to ask what that actually is. They buy what others admire, not what they value. They chase comfort without clarity. And when everything becomes a priority, nothing really is. I've seen millionaires and paupers make the same mistake, confusing spending with living. They think buying more things fills the emptiness of not knowing what truly matters. But it doesn't. It only amplifies the noise. Let me tell you a secret most won't like. A comfortable life isn't built by adding. It's built by subtracting. Subtract the unnecessary. Subtract the envy. Subtract the noise. What remains? That's where your peace and purpose live. You don't need to cut joy out of your life. You just need to rank it. There's a difference between what's nice and what's necessary, between pleasure and priority. Sit down and write it out. 5 things that truly improve your life. Not the things you think you should have, but the things that, when you have them, make you calmer, wiser, and freer. That's your compass. Everything else is a distraction. For one person, it might be family dinners. For another, solitude. For someone else, books, travel, or health, the list doesn't matter. The clarity does, because once you know your top 5, every financial decision gets easier. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this deserve space in my life?" When you prioritize, you reclaim control. You stop living reactively. You stop buying things out of boredom or insecurity. You start spending like an investor, allocating capital toward happiness that compounds. Yes, happiness can compound. If you spend on things that actually matter, their returns multiply over time. A good education compounds. Good health compounds. Good relationships compound. The rest loses value faster than your latest phone. So before spending, pause and ask, will this still matter to me in 5 years? If the answer is no, it's probably a waste. This kind of thinking may sound cold, but it's not. It's clarity, and clarity is the foundation of peace. Even rich people need to prioritize. In fact, they need it more, because options multiply confusion. The poor man wastes because he has too little. The rich man wastes because he has too much. In both cases, the disease is the same: lack of focus. If you can learn to prioritize on a small income, you'll be invincible when you have more. Because money doesn't change your behavior, it amplifies it. If you're reckless when you're broke, you'll be catastrophic when you're rich. And that's why learning to live on less is a form of training. You're teaching yourself to think, to choose, to differentiate. That's real intelligence, not IQ, but judgment. When you spend deliberately, you also start appreciating deliberately. Gratitude grows where chaos used to be. You stop needing constant novelty to feel alive. You start valuing the quiet satisfaction of having enough. Enough is a beautiful word. It's the dividing line between wealth and misery. You cross it the moment you realize more isn't better. Better is better. I've met plenty of people with less money than me, but I've met very few with less worry. That's because money doesn't eliminate worry. Discipline does. A low-income life lived smartly is more peaceful than a high-income life lived stupidly. It's clearer, surer, freer. You don't wake up panicking about payments or layoffs. You wake up knowing you're in control because you've chosen simplicity over spectacle. Spend on what's valuable to you, not what signals value to others. If you enjoy a good meal, budget for it. If you love books, buy them. If you crave experiences, plan them. But do it consciously, not because an ad told you what happiness should look like. This is the paradox of money. The less you need, the richer you become. Because real wealth is freedom from need. The people who master money aren't those chasing more. They're the ones who learn when to stop. So, if you want to live well on a low income, don't think smaller, think clearer. Ask yourself every day, what do I truly value? What can I live without? And what will I still care about when the noise fades? Answer those honestly, and you'll never feel poor again. Because the richest man in the world isn't the one with the most, it's the one who can say with complete calm, I already have enough. That's freedom, that's wealth, that's the rational life.